The National Cemetery is off to the right, which is the site of the second fort built here after Fort Donelson was abandoned by the Federals. They'll still garrison the area, but they're not going to hold the original Confederate fort. The fort that's built up where the National Cemetery is now is the one constructed by the 83rd Illinois. It's on the same ridge. The first fort's at the City Cemetery. That was built by the four companies of the 71st Ohio, including my wife's great-great-great-grandfather. And in August of 1862, when they were attacked by Tom Woodard's Confederate cavalry, who just recaptured Clarksville, comes over here to try to beat up the other four companies of the 71st. In order to prep the position, they performed Dover, Tennessee's first urban renewal project by burning 17 buildings, including the county courthouse. And they let my wife come here. Take a right at this next sign where that white car is.
Before you had anything to do with it?
What's that?
That before you had anything to do with it?
I had nothing to do with it. My wife's ancestor did it. Man, that is a medium one up front. I mean, it's for like this much. It's for like so not happy with you. Over there.
Building a new house?
There's something. I'd be getting my metal detector out though.
What?
You bet I'd go relic cutting in there. All right, the position you'll see coming up on the right is where Buckner's going to move to for his part of the breakout attack. He's going to be firing artillery and support, trying to pin down the Federals as much as possible. If you can just pull in the end pole here and stop aim as best you can for just about 2 minutes. Probably can't do anything. Something for us with that. I'll go right here. So you can see we are now completely parallel to the Union line on the Winds Ferry Road, which is less than a mile straight across. There's a swale down below and then up the bridge on the Winds Ferry Road. So this is where Buckner's going to mass his troops and his artillery. And as the Confederates are attacking to our front and driving towards this direction, Buckner's guns are going to be trying to pin down the follow-on Union brigades, particularly from Oglesby's front on back to the west. And then he'll launch a couple desultory assaults. Brown's Tennessee Brigade will go in piecemeal, one regiment, Rich repulsed, one regiment repulsed, etc. Until finally later in the day where Buckner's people go down en masse and actually will break the Union line and start to push them back. Now in the morning attack, the plan is to open the two roads out so they can march the garrison out and leave a sacrifice force of troops to hold the fort as long as they can so the garrison can make it to Nashville safely. So if you're going to do that as your mission, do you leave your packs on? Because you typically attack without your backpacks. Or do you leave them off, drive the Federals back, go back and pick up your packs, cook some rations, and then march out at your leisure? You go out with your packs on. And the way it's going to happen is Buckner, once he gets on the Winds Ferry Road, is going to pivot to the right like a door. And he's going to be the wall, if you will, behind which Pillow's division and the other Confederate troops can escape. And Buckner will perform the most difficult duty of any army, a rear guard action. He will slowly fall back towards the Forge Road, no doubt under pressure from the Federals, and save as much of the garrison as they can. So Buckner gets the worst of the two jobs from what Gideon Pillow and Bushrod Johnson get earlier that morning. Okay, go ahead and pull forward and we'll just follow the road to the right. We're going to go out to the area of Dudley's Hill. That's now been added to the park as of last year, bought by the Civil War Trust. It is the key piece of the land fighting here at Fort Donelson. So we're really excited that it's here. And again, when I take Army staff rides out, we actually go out on Dudley's Hill and form up and actually refight the battle so they can understand what linear tactics were. So Buckner's line is going to veer off to the left. You can see the Texas Monument down there as we make the curve. That's the only other Confederate monument for the 7th Texas that was here. All Texas monuments look the same, cut from the same red marble. Now this was the road, this was the Winds Ferry Road going into downtown Dover. The school bus says we'll make a left, just past that light pole, we'll make a left. And the Winds Ferry Road will veer off to the right and we'll get to back this area on our way out of here. We're going to go to the base of Dudley's Hill. Debbie told me this morning the ticks are already up, so I'm not going to make you walk out on Dudley's Hill unless you brought your deep woods off with you. I forgot. I got enough tick bites a year, I don't need any more.
I already got 2 off.
Oh, you already got 2? Yeah, we'll stand on the pavement so the ticks won't mess with us. So this is part of the Union battle line. Off to our left was the site of the 29th Illinois. of Oglesby's brigade, the most important regiment here of the entire campaign, because in Company A was Private John Palmer, my great-great-grandfather. I only found out about him about three years ago. If I'm fourth generation Illinois, I figure I had to have a Yankee in the woodpile somewhere. I do have a Confederate ancestor too.
Leonidas Polk.
Now he's a private in the 22nd Virginia, whose colonel was George Simpson Patton, by the way. Okay, what we'll do is we'll go ahead to the end and drop us off, then you can do a back turn here in the department section, what the buses do, and then back your bus down. We'll meet you at the end. Okay. All right, use map 6 on this for Dudley's Hill.
Going down in there?
Yeah, we'll go down and all the way to the end. And like I say, you'll be able to back up and do the white turn right there. This is the Forge Lane. This is the Forge Road. There's the Forge Road. There goes the Forge Road. I don't know why somebody piled brush there, but you can see a lot better this way. Oh. So called because it goes down about 2 miles to the Iron Forge. It's down the way, crossing Indian Creek, and there's the Iron Forge down there, whose ruins are still there. So this is the actual objective, is for the Confederates in the breakout attack to open up the 2 roads. Well, they already own the Charlotte Road, which is about 1.5 miles that way, on the opposite side of the hill. But this is the one they wanted the most, because the Indian Creek Valley was narrower here, and with all the flooding, it was a shallower ford for the Confederate troops to do. Keep in mind, it got bitterly cold on the night of the 13th and 14th. So the water's not going to be all that warm anyway, because it hasn't been, I mean, it's winter in Tennessee. We get cold down here too. So the water's going to be cold, and they're worried about the troops marching through the water and being, from the exposure, getting colds, pneumonia, all this other kind of stuff. And I guess they hadn't figured out that the more you move and you're burning calories and you're keeping your body temperature up, you're not going to get that. And this is spoken from a veteran pond hockey player in Chicago who broke through the ice more than once. As long as you keep moving, you don't get frostbite or pneumonia or any of that kind of stuff. So troops moving are going to burn calories. So this is the road they want more than the Charlotte Road, because the fording here is going to be much, much narrower. So out on Dudley's Hill, borrowed from Smith's division, is the fine brigade of John MacArthur. The 9th Illinois under Augustus Mercy, who's one of the Germans. It's one of the German regiments, 12th Illinois, which had been MacArthur's own regiment, the Scots Regiment from Chicago, and the 41st Illinois under Colonel Pugh. So they're out there in your typical formation where you don't know, and they march out here in the middle of the night. So they keep marching down. They say there'll be guides that'll teach you, or how to get over here. And when they get here, Oglesby's right flank regiment, the 18th Illinois, is off this way. And they say, where are we supposed to go? Well, they want you out on the hill. So they march out on the hills like, we can't see squat. We'll just stop here. We'll deal with it in the morning. And he's going to have a section of Missouri light artillery out there with him as well. Unfortunately for him in the morning, starting about, it's supposed to kick off about 5:30. He'll kick off about 6:30 that morning. All of the Confederates in the world are going to mass in column of brigades on the Charlotte Road. Here you go, brigade front, mass, 2 regimental front, so it's called column of brigades. It is a Napoleonic era formation designed to move a body of troops quickly from point A to point B with 0 stragglers, with 0 having to stop and dress a line of battle, because a line of battle that moves often enough will start to bow and bend, and you stop, and you always read that. Then we had to stop under fire and dress our ranks and all this stuff. You don't have to do that with a column. You can just keep moving forward, and then what you do, as the French army under Napoleon would do, is as you close your enemy position, then you break into your lines of battle. With your 2 front regiments here, then the regiments behind moving out like here, like here, like here, until you've created your line of battle and you start engaging the enemy. So that's what's going to basically happen on this point. So they'll mass all these Confederates there. Off to that vicinity is going to be Buckner with some artillery, and they're going to be trying to pin down Oglesby's people on back to the next Union brigades on down the line, with just basically by artillery fire, and then launching attacks from that ridge towards this ridge. Now, needless to say, it's a very cold night for these guys. You're not going to build campfires on top of the hill unless the Confederates to your front open fire on you. If you're going to do any of that, you got to go down to the swales down here, into the ravines, to do any kind of cooking. And I've not found much where these guys were able to do any cooking. These basically huddled together in what's called spooning, which they still do in the Army today. If it gets too cold, to use your body warmth to keep you warm and the guys around you. Now what MacArthur is going to do with in a position like this, when you have 3 units, you have 2 regiments up and 1 in reserve. That's a typical combat formation where you can fight a battle until it develops and you've got a reserve regiment that you can play into based on as the tactical situation develops. So about 6:30 in the morning, after finally getting all the regiments over here, slipping and falling on the icy hills of Dover, horses falling down, all of this kind of stuff. I mean, it's treacherous. And you saw how it's not flat here, it's like this. So if you're coated with sleet and ice, you're going to be falling down a lot more than staying on your feet. So they will finally get their troops about an hour late in formation, and they will start forward in a brigade column going down the road to a certain point, and then the right side of the column will break off and start going down to the front. Down the ravine below the hill is a place called Barnes Hollow. We cross through Barnes Hollow in the dip coming from the other side. So they'll start shaking off this way to engage Oglesby's right and MacArthur's front, while these guys will start shaking off this way, and taking on the 8 Union cavalry companies there is Bedford Forrest with his cavalry brigade. So his mission is to drive these guys off the field and then do a complete right wheel turn and get down there into the hollow and push them all the way to the back. So what will happen is the first part of the Confederate battle line will shake out almost to the front of the 18th Illinois, which is right here. And they're kind of shocked because all of a sudden out of the shadows rise up these guys and they think it's a picket line, and they open fire, and the picket line fires back, and it's basically going to be game on. That's going to be Baldwin's guys. They'll start to engage over here against the 18th Illinois. So they've actually kind of gotten past where MacArthur's people are. Meanwhile, as Pillow is directing more troops to file in behind Baldwin, they will start to engage the pickets down of MacArthur's people down at Barn Hollow, who come running back up and inform Colonel MacArthur that the Confederates are in force in Barnes Hollow and they're coming towards us. But they're not breaking out the column in an orderly manner yet. It's little by little as the column is deployed, Confederate column into line of battle. So what MacArthur does is he pulls his regiments up, 2 on the brow of the hill, the 9th and the 41st with the 12th in reserve, his own regiment. And basically he's going to watch and fire from the top of the hill as the Confederates start trying to come out of the hollow. They'll make charge after charge after charge and not dent the Federal line. And finally what happens is Baldwin orders the 20th Missouri Infantry to move into a spot where a gap had developed between his brigade and the next follow-on brigade. You do not want gaps in your line at all in linear warfare, which the 41st Illinois under Colonel Pugh goes, look at that gap in the line, men advance. And they will march down off the brow of the hill, down into Barnes Hollow to attack that gap in the Confederate line. They will then start to roll up the tail end of Baldwin's guys and start to roll up the Confederates that are coming on in support. They're actually winning. They're outnumbered about 5 to 1, but they're defeating the Confederates in that position. So what Pillow does is he spies this and he orders the 20th Mississippi to move into line to block the 41st Illinois' advance. And instead of shaking out by column of companies, we have a company in the front, company behind, where you have your lead company here, your next company forms here, your third company forms there, which is a quick maneuver. You can do it at the double quick. They do a right face, parade ground, left wheel march, where the pivot company just basically does this, and all the other companies basically leading their stride, and they're swinging like a door. That is a parade ground maneuver. Colonel Pugh is sitting there going, I can't believe the gift they're giving me. Boys, let them have it. 2 volleys from the 41st, the 20th Mississippi falls apart. They fall back. It'll take over an hour for them to reform and get back into the action. By this time, however, Pugh realizes he's now taking fire from 3 sides, so he withdraws the 41st back up to the brow of the hill. Now the Confederates have been sort of stymied here, but they're pushing out that way, around the brow of Dudley's Hill. Forrest has driven the Federal cavalry off the field. They've completely fallen back. And then this line of Confederate regiment starts to shake out this way. So what will eventually happen is you're going to have a big sweeping thing that's going to go like this, with Dudley's Hill in the middle of the U. So the Confederate U will be like this, and MacArthur's brigade in the center, which means he's basically outflanked. So what's going to happen, he'll finally pull the 12th Illinois into reserve and what they call refuse flank. You know what refusing your flank is? Can I get two? Yep, let me use you and you. We're gonna, here, let me use you real quick. Here, Morris. We're going to stand in the line of battle, facing this way.
For lesson scale.
The only works for lesson scale. Yeah. Turn that way. Okay, I'm being attacked on the right by these gentlemen here. So the brigade commander tells me to refuse flank. You guys face that way. So your regiment, I'm a regiment. They tell me, Colonel Biggs, refuse the flank of the brigade. So I just do this. That's refusing your line. So that's what the 12th Illinois does. They're refusing the line. But it's a little too late, because by this time the Confederates are down in there.
in the hollow. And that's called buffer.